right, I'm going to call to order the Planning Commission meeting on October 18th at 6:32. The first up is the approval of minutes from September 20th. Any changes anyone has as well? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
Moved by Rich, seconded by Randy. All in favor of approving, say aye. 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 Anyone opposed, say nay. All right, those are approved. Public appearances for non-agenda items. Nothing from the public, but I do think this might be a good time to welcome the new member to the Planning Commission, Janelle Rice. Emily was here and she moved out of the city, so she had to step down, and Janelle is replacing her. Welcome.
Thank you.
Anything you'd like to tell us about yourself?
Lived here in Fitchburg for the last 20 years. My day job is that I work with the software that many of these organizations use to build buildings, roads, cities. So look forward to being part of this process.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Agenda review, anything we need to move around at all? Okay, so maybe want to bump up the solar farm, it sounds like. Maybe if someone would like to do that. I don't know. Let's see, I think those are, is it H and I? All right. If someone has any interest in doing that, if there's a lot of people here for that.
All right. I'll move to move the public hearing consideration and conditional use request CU-2476-22 to the top of the agenda.
And also the...
Along with the ADR.
All right, so H and I.
H and I, correct.
All right, seconded by Janelle. Let's move those up to first, since we got a lot of people here for that. All in favor of amending the agenda, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, seeing none, then we can start with that. So start with H then. It's CU 2476-22. And I'm not sure who's presenting the solar farm, but come on up and we'll take it from there. You can tell us what's going on here and we'll go from there.
Hi there. My name's Eric Udelhoffen. I work for a company called One Energy Renewables based out of our Madison office. We started the office here in Madison in 2015 and have been working on projects throughout the Midwest since. The first project we developed in the Dane County area is the Mori Field project over near Mori Field in Middleton, which was a project that we sold to MG&E, and MG&E owns and operates as their part of their shared solar program. That project is 5 megawatts in size. The project that we're proposing here in Fitchburg, called the Taito solar project, is 6 megawatts in size, a little bit larger, but would follow a similar pathway where once it's constructed, the ownership would be transferred to MG&E, and they would operate it as part of their shared solar program, which basically allows residents and small businesses to sign in and obtain a portion of their energy from this centralized community scale project. A couple of notes about the process here of kind of how we came to find this site and what makes it suitable for a solar project. The first thing we're looking for is suitable infrastructure from the electrical standpoint. So the project is designed to tie into the existing 3-phase distribution line that's along Irish Lane, south of the project area. And that line is large enough to accommodate the full output of the project, but yet small enough to tie into without significant expense. So it's kind of the Goldilocks size in terms of capacity. The substation that line comes out of is adequately sized to accommodate the full output of the project and has sufficient load so that the vast majority of the output will be used locally. So that's kind of the first lens that we're looking at a project through. From there, we're looking for suitable site characteristics from the perspective of buildability in terms of shape and the topography and soil conditions and depth of bedrock. So we need to have those elements to be able to construct a cost-effective project. And then the last element is a landowner host who's interested in hosting that project on their land for a long period of time. We designed the projects to have a 40-year life. And so finding a landowner who's interested in leasing a portion of their property for that long duration of time is the last key element that we're looking for. So those three things came together for this project, which is proposed as a 30-acre fenced area. Within the site, it's north of an existing high-voltage transmission line, which is not going to be involved with the project at all. Our project will tie into the line along Irish Lane, and then there'll be a new underground distribution line that comes back into the project site. So that high voltage line and the associated easement sets the southern boundary of the site. So it's set back to the north of Irish Lane, roughly 900 feet. And then from there, the site occupies around 30 acres of two parcels that are 80 acres total, with about 60 acres of tillable. Thank you for pulling that up. Appreciate it. The other kind of notable elements here to point out, we proposed a gravel access drive coming in off of Irish Lane that would start out, I think it's roughly 200 feet in from the parcel boundary, and then angling to the northeast to go and then hug the eastern property line until it passes underneath the high voltage transmission line and then comes into the site. We had a wetland delineation performed by EOR, and there is a wetland in the southern extent of the parcels, which is shown here in the blue. And we have maintained as much setback as we could possibly achieve while staying within the parcels that we have option to lease over. And for the majority of the southern extent of the driveway, that we're able to stay more than 75 feet from the edge of the wetland, but there is a small kind of choke point between the wetland and the parcel boundary where we would propose encroaching on that 75-foot setback for about 100 feet for a total encroachment of, I think it's 1,600 square feet. And after conversations with Deanna, we have been working with EOR on a wetland restoration plan to restore roughly 2 times the square footage that we impact of some of the degraded wetlands in that same portion of the site. Other than that, the main parameters of the site roughly mirror, I mean, it's the same overall technology as O'Brien Fields. It would be single-axis tracking panels built on top of driven steel pilings. A couple key differences from O'Brien Field are the type of single-axis tracker that we're proposing. This technology is one panel in each row rather than the 2 panels that O'Brien Fields is, which makes the overall system height pretty significantly less. So the maximum height of the panels in the morning and evening is about 8 feet, 7.5 to 8 feet. And the pilings are quite a bit. The reveal height out of the ground is about 5.5 to 6 feet. So they're a little bit shorter piles and quite a bit shorter overall system height. The other difference is that O'Brien Fields has what's called central inverters. So the inverters that take the DC output of the panels and convert that to AC at O'Brien Fields are centralized and quite a bit larger. What we're proposing are a larger number of string inverters that are mounted on I-beams that are similar to the I-beams that are used in the construction of the racking. Beyond that, the elements of the site are pretty similar in terms of the fencing we're proposing to use, which is ag-style, 8-foot deer exclusion-style fence. For the vegetation, we're proposing to either have pollinator planting or a pasture that would be grazed by sheep. And we're in conversations to explore that and see if that's a possibility. But we think that's a really exciting possibility on this project that we've incorporated with a number of our other projects in the upper Midwest, but this would be our closest to the main office, so we're really excited about that. And, I guess the staff report and the application, the staff report was really thorough, and I don't want to bore everyone with too many details, but please, would love to respond to any questions that you have or flesh out any of the details that I haven't covered in this quick overview.
All right, thank you. We'll do a staff report and then get community feedback, and then the planning commission will discuss. Go ahead, Dina.
Okay, so I'm not gonna reiterate the entire staff report that is available online. A couple of points that I want to bring out. The current zoning is transitional agriculture, and under transitional agriculture, this particular use is a conditional use, and that's why this project is coming before Plan Commission this evening as a conditional use in agriculture. The planning staff have carefully reviewed the proposal based on some of the policy proposals under the Farmland Preservation Plan that Dane County is working on. So some of the items that we looked at as staff was to ensure that the proposed facility would not need extra infrastructure in terms of electrical infrastructure. It does not. We looked at the soils for the proposed site. And we have, our understanding is that after the 40 years, once the project is no longer viable or is decommissioned, the soils, the landscape will be still in agriculture. We're not changing the zoning. The land will be able to return back to an agricultural use. To enhance the soil and water conservation, the applicant is proposing to seed under and around the solar panels, a pollinator seed mix, or perhaps establish a grazing mix and then work with a neighboring farm to graze sheep. The Wisconsin DNR has determined that there's no expected impacts to endangered species. The site would be accessed by one gravel drive that would limit any impacts to the site. As Eric mentioned, the driveway would enter from Irish Lane farther to the east of the existing homes, or farther to the west of the existing homes. The wetland delineation did identify wetlands just outside the proposed project area. These are degraded wetlands, and under our comprehensive plan proposal that we need to maintain at least a 75-foot buffer. As Eric mentioned, we are not able to, this project would not be able to maintain that 75-foot buffer for the entire length of the gravel driveway. So the applicants have proposed a wetland restoration. The site survey identified several major trees within the front 200 feet of the property. The applicant has agreed to protect those large trees to the extent possible. And at the end of the application package, the applicant did provide some additional graphics to show kind of how it would look in the landscape. So the staff recommendation, the staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit request. We do have eight conditions, and I'll just kind of walk through the important ones. Construction of the access road shall protect the existing trees. Development shall not impair or limit the current or future agricultural use of the surrounding parcels. Development shall not impact the soil quality, existing grades. And once the project permanently ceases to operate, the permit holder shall restore the site, including grades and soils, to substantially the same condition. And the applicant shall submit an installation and maintenance plan for the wetland restoration and any pollinator grazing plantings. The staff also recommends approval of the architectural design review with 7 pretty standard conditions.
All right, thank you. I've got a number of people here who want to speak. Just a reminder that we do ask people to speak for 3 minutes or less, so I can open the public hearing for that. First up, I have Bo Stafford from Fitchburg, who I think is just available to answer questions, or do you want to speak? Yeah, come on up.
Mr. Mayor, Plan Commission members, appreciate the opportunity to share my thoughts about One Energy's solar project along Irish Lane in the city of Fitchburg. I'm testifying for information purposes only. However, I am in favor of utilizing solar power as long as agricultural lands and practices can coexist. I am a first-generation farmer, and my wife, Grace, and I own a 56-acre farm immediately northwest of the proposed solar site. We produce certified organic small square hay on approximately 38 tillable acres. My daytime job is working at the state capitol for a state senator, where I specialize in agriculture, broadband, education, and environmental policy. My wife and I bought our farm 3 years ago. We did it because we wanted our children to understand the value of farming and experience the joy, fulfillment, and sometimes the frustrations that come with creating something with your own 2 hands. My wife, I would describe as a city slicker, but she has been engaged and interested in starting our farm together. I grew up planting tobacco, baling hay, milking cows, raising sheep and pigs for the Rock County Fair. These important tasks and projects taught me how to work hard, cherish the land, and learn valuable life lessons at an early age. We want our 1- and 3-year-old children to learn these same lessons. We couldn't think of a better place to start a family farm than in Fitchburg. When it comes to solar development and agriculture advancement, there are both opportunities and challenges that face Fitchburg in the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin has incredible soils and abundant water and hardworking people. It's the perfect recipe for a robust agricultural economy. Like with any gift, we must be responsible stewards. Preserving farmland is essential for our state to remain an agricultural leader, and organic farming practices will contribute to our long-term goals for keeping soils rich and productive while also marshaling a strong agricultural economy. It isn't only about our land, it's about the people that make the difference too. The average age of Wisconsin farmers is 56 years old. Farmers are retiring and new farmers are facing significant barriers to farm ownership. In fact, Wisconsin lost nearly 1% of our farmland just last year alone. It's a dangerous trend for Wisconsin to remain an agricultural leader. At the same time, solar development is growing at an exponential speed and scale across the globe. Admirably, Wisconsin is moving away from carbon emissions and adopting renewable energy. And though solar requires a lot of space, new technological advancements and public support are rapidly making solar the preferred renewable energy source for forward-thinking communities. This shift is further fueled by a huge increase in local energy demands as electric vehicles become increasingly mainstream. New residential developments are breaking ground, and a booming biotechnology sector is taking off here in Fitchburg. The demand for cheap, reliable electricity in Fitchburg and the surrounding service area is growing at a breakneck speed. So what does this all mean for us? As Wisconsin leaps into this new era, we must find new ways to preserve agricultural land and generate passion for future farmers, while also investing in solar energy and the bright, sustainable future it can provide for our communities and children.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt. You're over 3. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. I hate that part of this thing.
Yeah, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Great, thank you.
And I do have printed testimony for
yeah, if you want to hand that
members.
out,
Yep.
that'd be great, sure. All right. We also have John Armstrong from MG&E, who lives here in Fitchburg. He's just available to answer questions, I believe, unless you want to speak, John, but I have you down here as questions. All right. We also have Tom Christoff from Fitchburg registering in opposition. Julie Kreitstoff from Fitchburg registering in opposition. We have Elaine Holpe from Oregon who wants to speak. I believe on, is it this item? You didn't write down which item. Is it this one, Elaine? No? Okay. Which one is it? D. Oh, D. Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. All right. Do we have anyone? I don't think we have anyone on Scott online for this one, do we? Okay. And then we got some other emails, and much like on the council meetings, when there's a lot of emails, I don't read all the emails. I just read kind of who they are, and if they're pro or against. So we got an email from Paul Berlin from Chicago in support of the project. We've got an email from Andrew Trusty from Madison in support of the project. I have an email from Nate Dombeck, and he is in favor of it, but does not say where he is from. We have an email from Caitlin Gellenice in support of the project. It does not say where she is from. I got an email from Barb Ryan in support of the project. It does not say where she is from. An email from Chris Unterberger, who is in favor of this. It does not say where he is from either. An email from Catherine Pensack from Madison in support of the project. An email from Amanda Larsala in support of the project. Does not say where she is from. Email from William Ratundi in support. Does not say where she is from. An email from Porter Rhyme in support of the project. Does not say where Porter's from. Dennis Noonan from Madison in support of the project. Lance Green from Madison in support of the project. Dave Fallow from Madison in support of the project. Christine Morrissey in support of the project. Does not say where she is from. Zoe Ramelkamp from Madison in support of the project. Barb and Pat Sauter in support. It does not say where they are from. Susan Kozinski in support of the project. Does not say where she is from. Mark Taylor. Let's see here. Does not say where he is from, and he really just sends along thoughts, I think some concerns with the project, but does not say where he is from. Anne-Marie Waterhouse from Milton in support of the project. Norda Graumel in support of the project. Does not say where she is from. Joel Sylvester from Fitchburg in support of the project. Kent Galloway from Reedstown in support of the project. Doug White from Madison in support of the project. Jeannie Nye in support of the project. Does not say where she is from. Judith Stadler from Fitchburg in support of the project. Kristen Shirk in support of the project. Does not say where she is from. Sarah Wall from Madison in support of the project. Janet Nywald from Fitchburg in support of the project. And that is all I have. I know someone asked this of me, Deanna and Zach, and I thought it was a good thought, is that in the future, if they don't say where they're from, if we can ask them, I think people would like to know if they're from Fitchburg or not. So if we could do that in the future, that would be wonderful. And I think I have everyone else to speak on this. If I miss someone, let me know real quick. All right, I think we got everyone. Good. So we can close the public hearing and go to Plan Commission comments, thoughts. I believe Ag and Rural Affairs talked about this. I don't know if, Ed, you want to give an update on what Ag and Rural Affairs had to say?
We did. Ag and Rural was in favor. There was a lot of discussion about how the decommissioning occurs at the end. And I don't think we had any issues that we were satisfied with the answers to those questions. And then there was some discussion also, about how this might be used for sheep grazing over the next 40 years, whether that was a possibility. But there really weren't any issues in Ag and Rural. So I think the only question that came up that we did not have an answer to is we're just curious how these get taxed from a property tax standpoint going forward. Is it still, I assume it's not taxed as ag land, it's taxed more as commercial property, right? Or do we know?
I don't know myself. We can find the answer out and send it out to the Planning Commission.
Okay.
And the Ag and Rural Affairs Board.
Yeah, Ag and Rural voted in favor of it.
Dina, before we go to more questions, comments, I believe with conditional use permits like this, if it meets the, what can be done on the property, which this does, we're pretty limited in our ability to say no. Is that correct?
State law does have some pretty stringent limitations as long as the applicant can meet reasonable conditions. And I think that staff has put together some reasonable conditions. That's kind of the boundaries that state law has for us.
Yeah. I remember with the cell phone towers, we were in a similar situation. However, in that instance, there was some zoning things that were incorrect for that, and that's why we were able to say no to that. So we have to have a pretty good reason to say no because of state law, and I think is what you'll say. All right, I can open up to questions, comments, thoughts from Planning Commission. Randy?
During the Ag and Rural, which I attended, I had asked the question about the profile. Could you talk a little bit about the height? It's somewhat different than the O'Brien farm. I mean, it's a much lower profile. If you could address the difference between the two.
Sure thing. Yeah, appreciate that question. So the panels, the racking system that we're proposing here is a 1-up in portrait style rather than the 2-up in portrait style for O'Brien Fields. So on O'Brien Fields, there's one panel on either side of the central torque tube, which then has to be elevated up a little bit higher so that when it's tilted at maximum extent, the lower edge is a sufficient distance above the ground. So the pilings are taller, but then also the overall system height is, I think, roughly 12 feet at O'Brien Fields when the panels are at their maximum extent in the morning and evening. So with the panels being, instead of 2, just being 1, the pilings are shorter. So the height above ground level of the top of the piling is roughly 5.5 to 6 feet. And then the panels are mounted on top of that at their maximum extent in the morning and evening. They're 7.5 to 8 feet tall. But then they're still able to be that 3-foot minimum above ground level at the lower side. So that's the main difference. There are also some other differences in terms of the racking design for how the motors are set up. The system that we're proposing has many fewer motors, and then there are drive shafts that connect large blocks of the system, and that has a higher uptime and higher chance that they're always facing the right direction, and lower failure rates on those motors. So that racking technology is one that we're really comfortable with and have worked with across the Midwest. So that's kind of the major difference, I would say, from O'Brien Fields and the proposed Taito project.
Very good. So there's probably a good 4+ feet of a difference in height when they're fully extended then? I mean, versus the O'Brien field.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
so there is a lower profile which is an advantage for the neighboring landowners
Right.
as far as
Yep.
site. Very good, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Just one comment. I don't know whether you mentioned this, but we talked about it at Ag and Rural. These panels are two-sided?
That's right. Yeah, they're bifacial panels. So the back looks essentially the same as the front. It's glass, tempered glass on the top and tempered glass on the bottom, sandwiching the silicon wafer. So that allows them to produce a significant amount more energy, especially in the winter months when there's snow on the ground and there's a lot of additional sunlight reflecting off of the snow. So that's one of the things that this project is 30 acres within the fence and 6 megawatts. But the output we're expecting to be adequate for 1,180 homes. So the output is, if you were to compare it to a single axis tracking system that we would have built 3 years ago on monofacial, with monofacial panels, the output is, I think, about 7% higher. And then each panel has a significantly higher output than the panels that we put in at, for example, Mori Field. So the space efficiency of this project is, in terms of energy output per acre, is really quite high. And another thing I didn't really mention earlier is, of that 30 acres within the fence, the ground coverage ratio, which is the percentage of the area within the fence that would be covered by panels when the panels are flat at midday, it's roughly 30%. So there's a lot of area within the fence that is not ever shaded, but even the areas that are directly beneath the panels are only shaded for a portion of the day, which allows the vegetation to be really complete throughout the whole site, even right underneath the panels. So
then the O'Brien project, was that mono or bifacial?
Bifacial.
yeah, that one is,
bifacial also?
yep, that one's
Oh,
bifacial.
okay.
Yeah, that was one of the earlier bifacial projects in the Midwest. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
The Mori Field one we did was monofacial. So that was the year before O'Brien Fields. That was kind of when the transition happened. And each panel that we're proposing here is 540 watts. O'Brien Fields, I think, was, John can correct me, but I think in the mid 400 watt range, like 450. So they are getting more efficient each year.
I think by comparison, the O'Brien Solar Farms is 20 megawatts. This is 6. So this is about a third of the size of that one. So, Richard?
I got a question here. This is getting better and better every year, and I'm really impressed. But will these still be these panels in 40 years at the end of the lease, or do you think as technology increases, are they going to be updated? Is there, a cost-benefit ratio somewhere in there?
Yeah, that's a good question. The panels that we're proposing for this project have a 30-year warranty, and the warranty guarantees output that steps down a little bit each year, so that by the end of 30 years, it's guaranteed to produce about 85% of what it is produced, would produce the first year. Our expectation is that the panels will still be producing and have life left at the end of their warranty period, and that it will make sense to keep everything else operating as long as possible. So when we're designing the foundations and like the pilings and figuring out how much to galvanize that steel, we design everything for a 40-year design life because we expect the panels to continue operating past their warranty period. That's kind of the broader industry expectation. Whether the panels will be replaced at some, maybe at year 30 with newer technology, is kind of would be a cost benefit calculation at the time. But the beauty of solar projects, or part of the beauty of it, I think, is you put the investment in year one, and then you want to, in order to earn that back, keep the keep the project operating as long as possible using the original equipment to earn back the investment. The panels are a significant portion of the cost. So, I personally think that we'll keep them operating for the full duration, maybe replacing some that have issues, if they're isolated issues in year 31, but the majority keep them operating as long as possible.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Or someone want to do a motion? We can do that as well.
Sure.
Randy.
Motion to approve the conditional use request CU-2476-22 with the 8 conditions outlined by staff.
I'll second.
Sent by Rich. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, say nay. All right, that is approved. And then the ADR is aye. Is there anything additional? I think you kind of covered it in the original. Is there anything you want to add?
Not really. Yeah, if there are any specific questions on it, definitely can answer those. But we did include like some profiled designs of what the panels would look like at full extent, and a lot of the information we'll be following up with as far as the vegetation plan. So,
Dean, anything for the architectural design that you want to add?
These are just more of the standard requirements. If there's an erosion control, stormwater permit may be needed. Public Works may need a stormwater maintenance agreement. We'll just kind of have to work our way through that, but otherwise, no, we're set.
All right. Then further questions or comments from Planning Commission? All right. Not seeing anything. Someone do a motion?
Sure. Motion to approve the ADR for Taito Solar Farm with the following 7 conditions outlined by staff.
Second.
Sent by Ed. All in favor, say aye.
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 And opposed, nay. All right, it's approved.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, now we can go back to A on the agenda, the ADR for 2970 Chapel Valley, and I believe Kevin is online to walk us through this. Go ahead, Kevin.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate the time. I'm actually going to pass the mic over to Jeff Hoffman for his introduction, and then I'll take the technical side of things.
Kevin, and hello to everybody on the Planning Commission. This is sort of a reintroduction of our organization to you, as we were before you last year on a senior living development that to coordinate in the Terra Vesta development. Throughout the year, I just want to give a brief introduction. You'll see next to my name, 2 names, Illuminous and Marquardt. I just wanted to let you know that we have rebranded our organization and have changed our name to Illuminous. So we'll be updating all our official documents that we have submitted to Fitchburg to have that name updated on our plans. I just want to give you a little background on that. As we have continued to grow and are looking to develop our organization, we've decided to relocate our corporate offices from Watertown to Fitchburg. So we have recently purchased 2 office buildings in Fitchburg, which one of them Kevin will be explaining some of the work we're doing. We're relocating our entire management company, approximately 200 individuals that will be working out of these buildings for us. And we are looking to do a very extensive renovations, interior as well as exterior. So as part of this process, we'll be working with you for site improvements around buildings. And we're also working with the Homeowners Association, as there's a adjacent pond to the buildings, and we have some things we need to work through with them as well as far as cleaning up the site and some additional issues that have come up due to how the stormwater works. We'll get into that later. So with all that, I just thought it would be good for you to have a little bit of background of who we are. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll just turn it back to you, Kevin.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. Thank you, Commission members. So as Jeff mentioned, today we're talking about the Chapel Valley building. There are 2 buildings, the Triverton building and then Chapel Valley. Riverton is actually to the southeast of this site, but the focus of Chapel Valley, or why we're here for ADR approval, is because this building used to actually have a drive-through tenant for an old bank, and Marquardt or Illuminous is not in the banking industry, so we want to remove that drive-through and then incorporate a few more parking stalls at the site. So with the incorporation of the parking stalls, we are looking at going from 83 stalls to 90, so adding 7 more stalls. And then Illuminous does want a very nice product for their employees and tenants alike. So giving this site just a facelift, new paving, curb and gutter, sidewalk, and then landscaping all throughout. One other improvement with the drive-through is that they are not going to remove the canopy of the drive-through. They'll remove the ATMs, the bollards, the curb and gutter, but they do want to put a concrete patio below that drive-through overhang that their employees and end users can use. So I'm here for any technical questions you may have, and yeah, I'll open up the floor. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. First, we'll do a staff report. Go ahead, Deanna.
This site is right off of Chapel Valley, just to the north of McKee. It's about 2 acres. It is zoned BP, or business professional. I think that Kevin gave you a good overview of the project. Staff does recommend approval. We have just one question we want to bring to the Plan Commission. There's an addition of 5 parking stalls, I should say 5, along Chapel Valley, and staff is suggesting to put some more landscape screening between the new parking and Chapel Valley Road. Staff recommends approval with actually 6 conditions. I need to make a couple of edits for us. I apologize. Condition number 2, we will need to scratch. That's not needed. Condition number 2. So there will be a total of 6 conditions with no other permit is approved or is waived. The erosion control stormwater management permit if required, a stormwater maintenance agreement also if required. All new lighting shall be full cutoff or dark sky. Applicant's responsibility to comply with the fire department requirements and applicant's responsibility to satisfy public works comments. So just to summarize, staff would like to eliminate number 2 and recommend approval with a total of 6 conditions.
All right. With that, I can open up to Plan Commission comments, questions. I know I can say that I'm excited to have Illuminous moving here and investing even more in the community. That's great to see, and I think it's great that this property is going to get a nice refresh and facelift. It sounds like Illuminous doesn't want to get in the banking industry or have a coffee shop drive-through, so I guess it makes a lot of sense to remove those things, but I really think it's great to not only have them in the community, but also refreshing an older property. Anyone else? Ed?
Deanna, did you want to see a 7th condition in relation to the additional landscaping?
I would like to see that. I was bringing that to Plan Commission. Normally, we would be looking for some additional screening between a parking lot and the public right-of-way.
Okay.
So if you would like to make a motion?
Is that good with the applicant? Do you have an idea of what Deanna's looking for there?
Yes, and we would support that. Happy to comply there.
I reviewed that as it came in this past week and let Kevin know that everything along that west side, we definitely want to improve that. There's a lot of overgrowth and just things that need a lot of attention. So we'll be taking all that out and replanting in there, much better landscaping than what currently exists.
Well, that sounds great. So if we added a condition that would just leave it to staff approval of the landscaping plan, that's.
Yep.
And then I would move approval of ADR for 2970 Chapel Valley Road with the then 7 conditions as discussed.
Second.
Seconded by Randy. To clarify, just for home, is taking out the number 2 that's in the packet and adding the new one that you
Yes.
described, which is the landscape plan to be
Yes.
approved by staff.
Correct.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, nay? All right, that is approved. Thank you both.
Great, thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. All right, another ADR for 5955 McKee, and I believe we have Eric online for this one. Eric, do you want to walk us through what you have here?
Sure. I think you guys can hear me, right?
We can.
Okay. This is the 4th building in a series of 4 buildings that the project or the whole development started back, I think, in about 2000. So this would be the final building in that development. So the site and all the landscaping is pretty much built out except for probably the area kind of immediately around the building, which we are going to do, as you can see on the plans. To my knowledge, there are no tenants in there. It's basically just the envelope of the building that the owner is going to do now, and he will be filling that with tenants as he can get leases and tenants to move in. So that's about it. I don't really have too much to say.
All right, we can have staff do a report then. Go ahead, Dan.
Plan Commission actually did approve this ADR earlier this year. It's coming back to you because there's been some changes in terms of the architectural design. Staff felt it was appropriate to come back to Plan Commission. In actuality, staff believes that the architectural changes are an enhancement. They've added some canopies and some brackets that are more in line with the existing buildings on the site. So staff recommends approval with a total of 9 conditions.
All right. Open up to questions, comments from Plan Commission. I'm happy to see that it's enhanced from what we saw before. That's wonderful.
I would have to agree. I mean, this is the 4th building within that site, and it's going to be nice to see that empty lot filled. And it's in keeping with the rest of the architectural design of the other buildings, which is actually very attractive. Yeah.
Anyone else, or do you want to do a motion?
I will.
All right.
Motion to approve architectural design review at 5955 McKee with the 9 conditions, 9 conditions outlined by staff.
I'll second.
Sent by Rich. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, nay? All right, that is approved. On to C. I believe we've got some people here to speak to this project. If you'd like to come up and let us know. Just, I guess, speaking, registering only. And I mean, you're welcome to speak. Otherwise, we can just do the staff report, which is all right as well. I know we got them just registering only, so I think we can probably just go to the staff report then.
Is an application by Jim Lease for a rezone and for a certified survey map request. These are lands, the Lease family farm lands on both sides of Highway 14, just at the very southeast corner of the city. And what the applicant is requesting is to plat the property so that we have 2 lots on the east side of Highway 14 and then 1 outlot on the west side of Highway 14. So currently unplatted lands. Lot 1 to the north will need to be rezoned to agriculture, small lot agriculture. The lot 2 to the south will be rezoned to rural residential, and the outlot to the west of Highway 14 will remain agriculture, exclusive agriculture. That's not going to change. So both lot 1 and outlot 1 will continue to be farmed. And staff does recommend approval of the rezone with 3 conditions, and then we recommend approval of the certified survey with 7 conditions.
All right. I'll open up the public hearing. I believe that we got 2 individuals, both Roger Roth from Madison here in support of the matter. It says register only, and also Jim Lease from Oregon registering available to answer questions. Unless you would like to speak on the matter, you're welcome
Rather
to.
not.
Okay. All right. If there's any, no problem. You don't have to. Did Ag and Rural Affairs talk about this one?
Yes, Ag and Rural had no issue with this, and I think we're particularly appreciative that although there are no splits, no new home sites being created here, there are 2 home sites that remain to this as part of this property, and they're being parked on lot 2, which is really, that would be the most efficient way to eventually develop those if they're ever going to be developed, and keeps the largest amount of land in agriculture. So we're appreciative of that approach.
All right. Any questions or comments at all? Seeing none. Oh, Ed?
I'll move approval of the rezone request 2478-22 with the 3 conditions as noted by staff.
Second.
Sent by Janelle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay. All right, that's approved. Do you want to do the next one as well?
Sure. Move approval of CSM 2477-22 with the 7 conditions as noted.
Second.
Sent by Janelle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay. All right, that is also approved. Thank you. Moving along to E, the certified survey map request for Green Tech. And this is, oh, I'm sorry. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry, I meant to, I'm sorry, I completely, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, you were welcome to come up and speak if you'd like. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry, I missed the 2 speakers who had asked to speak on D. It just, one of them, they must both be in opposition, yeah. My apologies. They have email address on the one. They both lived on Schuster in Oregon and Dunn, and it's Mary Reynolds and Elaine Holpe. So yeah, they're across the street. Opposed. My apologies. Once in a while I miss one. All right. So we have, is it Michael speaking or presenting or Chris? Okay. Come on up. Yeah.
I'm Michael Marty. I'm the surveyor at Veerbecker who prepared the certified survey map. So here to answer some questions on it, if anybody has any, and then I do have a request when the time is appropriate.
All right.
Chris Armstrong, 5803 Auburn Drive, representing Avante Properties.
Do you guys want to speak at all to this?
At a high level, this is one of our southernmost lots on a Lacey Road, right before you get to the roundabout near Haight Farm, and it's already been platted. As we've done with a number of the access points within Smart Code, we create an access outlot. It's really kind of a nuance of Smart Code to create the proper setbacks. So I think this has been, just wherever there's a curb cut, we have these outlots, but we don't know where they need to be. So we're going to end up in front of you whenever we need to do this. So it doesn't really change the use or the intent or our project, but as we've kind of zoned in on what we're going to do there and when we're going to do it, we need to get this curb cut in place. So.
Mike Marty with Verbicker, 999 Fourier Drive, Madison. Just to piggyback on what Chris said, really the sole purpose of this certified survey map is to define the location of this outlot for the access purposes. And then what that further does is make sure that what we're proposing with this development, the buildings meet the setback requirements. And in conjunction with that, I wanted to speak to one of the recommendations of the conditions of approval, specifically item number 5 that speaks to concurrence from utilities shall be provided with regards to utility easements as shown on the certified survey map. A letter or email to the utilities is sufficient. In my experience, I believe this is more of a boilerplate comment that is intended to apply to brand new subdivisions or land divisions where utility easements don't already exist and infrastructure doesn't already exist. And in this case, that's not right because all of the infrastructure and all of the required easements have been granted and exist as a part of, the original Nine Springs edition plat that was done in 2012 up to and including the 6th edition, which this is a part of. The facilities are already there. What typically happens is once we get a site plan and the land division is approved and we move forward with the site plan, then we work with utility providers such as Madison Gas and Electric. We show them what is being proposed, how many units are going to be there, and then at that time they look at what they're going to need as far as transformers or additional easements stubbing off of these existing facilities that are already within existing easements. And so I guess I'm requesting, because we can't know that the utility providers can't really comment until we get an approval, and then Chris here has to, put money down and get work orders, because that's usually when they will really look into this. And so I'm requesting, should the Plan Commission be amenable to it, removing that condition, or if they're hesitant, perhaps we could make a recommendation where we add a note to the certified survey map stating that the developer shall work with all utility providers to provide any necessary new easements that would serve specifically this development. And maybe that would allow us to move forward without getting these concurrences, because it's really, really difficult to get them to even respond without, providing full site plans. And if they change, then we go back and they may want to change the location anyway. So that's really all I had for comments, would be that request if the Plan Commission would be amenable to either removing it or placing a note in lieu of, so that the Plan Commission can be satisfied that we will address it. And obviously we can't, have a development without the utilities serving the property anyway. So that's all I've got, unless you have questions for us.
I don't know if I have much to add to that, other than it sounds like what he's saying is that we're a little bit out of step with where we're at with the utilities and what the expectation of the CSM is. So to get the CSM signed off and stamped and signed off on, we're not prepared to answer the utilities questions that they would have for us. So.
All right, we can do a staff report.
Oh, excuse me. This is an existing lot, and it's a CSM. This is smart code. What is proposed is a apartment development. Staff doesn't have any concerns with the proposed CSM. We are recommending approval with the 10 conditions. I'll speak to the concurrence issue with number 5. The concurrence from utilities is a standard requirement on CSMs and plats. It's not something that the planning department requests. It's something that the Public Works Department requests. And I guess I'll leave it up to Plan Commission to make that decision. All of the CSMs that I've been involved in since I've been here have provided concurrences. I can say that.
All right. I can open up to questions or comments from Plan Commission. I think this was obviously going to be here many buildings ago, so obviously it makes sense. And not surprised that this one's getting built. And I know you try to do one roughly every year, so.
That's our goal.
Yep.
And you know, just to that concurrence comment, I don't want to put you guys on the spot here. You know, we will figure this out with that in place, and you know, feel free to leave it there. Maybe it's a point that's come up that we could address, you know, with staff, you know, for the future. It's so I don't want to. We've figured it out with the utilities in the past. It just kind of puts us. It puts the cart in front of the horse a little bit, and we thought it was an opportunity to point it out. So
It sounds like Public Works might be the area to
yeah.
ask about, you know, differences and something
Yep.
like this.
Yep.
Randy?
At what point do you establish the easements then? I mean, is it in the site plan? I mean,
Well, the easements were established as a part of the original Nine Springs development.
okay.
And we granted all of the easements that the utility providers requested, and those utility easements, they requested based on servicing that whole area. So that the whole perimeter of, you know, where the CSM is being drawn from already has utility infrastructure in place per what they thought they would need to serve this area in the future. And a lot of times then what happens is they have an expectation that you have a site development for a project, okay? We don't know if it's gonna be 64 units or 30 units or 100 units. And what happens then is once they get an approved plan, let's say, I don't know, how many units is this one?
55, 50,
So,
60.
yeah,
64?
so we give them the actual site plan, we give them the unit counts, they take a look at the site plan.
Sure.
And then they will route, you know, they'll take into consideration how aesthetically pleasing, you know, the transformer's gonna be. We'll design, you know, whatever for landscaping around it, and then they'll design a stub off of the utilities that are around the entire perimeter. And at that time, what we do, I think 90% of the time on the projects we've done in this development of Nine Springs, we work with MG&E, they say, this is where we want our transformer to be to stub in and serve these new buildings, and we grant them a new easement anyway after the certified survey map is recorded.
So there's facilities there already, there's easements established, and this is just really the stepping out of the transformer.
Exactly, and that's why I had originally said I get it, but it's more, to me, a boilerplate comment when you've got something brand new, where, let's say, Madison Gas and Electric or AT&T or Charter, they don't have facilities extended to that area, and at that time, they say, well, we need a 12-foot wide or a 15-foot wide easement. And typically, they go all the way around the block that you're working on, and then they will establish also along common lot lines every so often so that they can loop.
Yeah, sure. I mean, a lot of times they do buried joint as well.
I would say
Or do they not do that?
almost 100% of the time, we work with Madison Gas and Electric. They coordinate with the utility providers, and they all go joint.
Yep.
So, exactly.
Yep. Okay.
Other questions or comments? Doesn't look like it.
How do we want to proceed for tonight then?
I think it might be from concurrence from utilities and Public Works maybe more than anything else. This is a Public Works issue. It's not a Planning Commission issue. So it might even be concurrence from utilities or Public Works or something like that.
I can speak to this. So we're not looking for you to design the utilities to the building at this time. Just send the CSM as is. If you don't have good context to the utilities, I have them, just so that they can sign off on the CSM as it is. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, yes.
So if we could keep it like that, we're not asking anybody to design the utilities at this time, but this is the process that Public Works uses on all of these processes. Okay?
All right. Someone want to do a motion then with that?
Sure, I
All right.
can, sure. Motion to approve certified survey map request CS-2475-22 with the 10 conditions outlined by staff.
Is there a second? No second?
I'm sorry, what's the number of the CSM?
2475-22.
Alpha character E.
Oh,
E.
okay. There's two different numbers in the recommendation has a different number, 2468.
Apologize.
So 2475 is correct.
It is.
Thanks.
Okay, I still don't have a second, so. if there's-
Second.
Okay, seconded by Ed. All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
All right, that's approved. All right, now we've got F and G are kind of the same thing. And I don't know if Gary, you want to speak to the project here? All right, no problem. And so F and G are together. It's the public hearing and consideration of rezone request, RZ 247922. And ADR for that is called the Learning Experience. And that is also a Avante parcel of land. So in just a second here, we're going to have someone available to tell us more about the project. I believe it is a daycare center. And there's, daycare.
Infants.
I think I'm just gonna maybe jump ahead to the next item, since this, we'll come back to this in a minute. So we'll just go to J real quick here, which is a conditional use request 238421 or reapproval from Dale Steka. Dale, if you are on the line, you want to tell us what you're doing here? We just jumped ahead. We'll come right back to it. Since we weren't sure how long you were going to be. Dale, go ahead.
This is just a renewal of the current or the use permit that we've had that Fitchburg has allowed us to use the facility for educational and some small performance space. And we support local arts organizations and community organizations. And it's all intended to get us down the road to where we're trying to build an arts education campus on the land that's in all that area. So it's just continuous of what we're doing.
All right, staff report.
This is just a reapproval of an existing conditional use. The first conditional use permit was granted on September 21st of 2021. It sunset on October 1st of this year. So Mr. Sticka has come back to the Plan Commission with the exact same use, youth music groups, to reapprove the conditional use for another year. The current zoning is business highway. Amusement and recreational services are a conditional use. The fire the fire chief and his staff, and also the building official and his staff have reviewed the facilities and found everything is in compliance. So staff recommends reapproval of the conditional use with a total of 7 conditions, all of the same as what was granted last year, with the exception that reapproval would be necessary as of October 1st, 2023.
So another year. All right. Questions, comments at all? Or motion?
I'll move reapproval of conditional use CU 2384-21
22.
with the, what was it?
Well,
7 conditions.
238422.
Yes,
is
okay.
it,
Yeah,
I guess it says 21 on the agenda, but 22 in the staff recommendation. Is it, since this is 22, would it be 22 at the end?
all right.
The original was 21.
We kept the same docket number,
Okay.
yes.
But this one to be reapproved would be 22 then?
I think it stays 21.
Okay, then that was my fault.
It does, okay. All right, so it is 21.
So I got it right?
I
Yep,
apologize.
you did.
We will do 21.
All right, 21. And did someone second that?
I will.
Janelle seconded it. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay? All right, that's approved, Dale. Thank you.
All right, thank you, and we'll keep you posted and see you next year.
Sounds good.
All right, bye now.
Bye. All right, now we can go back to F and G. All right, go ahead, Gary or Chris, whoever's going to speak first.
Very good. My name's Gary Wendt. I'm with Bradford Real Estate Companies. And we first want to introduce the Learning Experience, which is a national early learning child care provider with over 250 current locations in the U.S. Bubbles the Elephant, their trademark, says happiness happens here. And I'll tell you, in terms of what I do, happiness happens when I walk through a completed daycare facility and see the 150 smiles, just like my grandson, Axel Wendt, smiles all the time. The project itself is a vacant lot that Bradford is purchasing from Avante with Chris Armstrong as owner. And it is the vacant property that's just north of the building that's going up for Encompass. The facility itself is 10,000 square feet. It's obviously a new build, one-story structure that has an outdoor play area that's secured with a very nice fence. We may want to talk about the fence. And that it's housing about 150 children with about 25 staff. Daycare is certainly licensed by the state, and so that's an overall process of licensure. We have responded to questions that staff have raised, and certainly we can go through those or simply wait and respond to questions that you may have.
All right, if you got nothing else, we can do staff report. Go ahead.
This project, the applicants request a rezone. The current property is zoned PDD GIP. So in order for construction to proceed, we need to rezone to SIP. So that's what this is proposing. And then also what you're seeing is the architectural design review. The proposed development is consistent with the PDD GIP that was originally zoned for the Fitchburg Technology campus back in 2002. And then there was a rezone for PDD GIP for Lot 27 of the Fitchburg Technology Campus, which this proposal is also consistent with. Staff does recommend that the applicant consult with the city forester regarding the existing street trees to be removed. There are 2 street trees that the applicant proposes to remove. Those will need to be replaced, but we suggest that the applicant works closely with the city forester in that process. Staff does not believe that additional signage is necessary on the north facade facing Nobel Drive. However, the signage will need to be fall under the Chapter 26 requirements for signage. Staff recommends approval of the rezone with standards that are consistent with the PDD GIP, actually pretty much the same, with just some notes to comply with Public Works and the Fire Department. Staff recommends approval of the architectural design review with some pretty standard conditions. We do ask that the applicant provide a landscape plan for the city planner and the city forester's approval, especially regarding those parking, those street trees. For staff review, signage shall comply with Chapter 26 sign ordinance, and then that's about all, the standard kind of conditions.
All right, then I can open up the public hearing for the rezone request. I do not have anyone online, I believe. I don't want to miss anyone again. Still feel better about that. All right, seeing nothing, I will close the public hearing, but open up to questions, comments from Planning Commission. Any thoughts, questions, concerns, things you like? Or motion?
Nothing to say.
I know there's a demand for childcare in the area. I know that Mariposa has a very long waiting list as one example, so I know there's a demand for the area.
I'm going to echo your comments as well. I would think, given the area, the high tech that's located, and with the residential area to the north, I think this is probably an area that probably could use a daycare. So,
anyone else? Otherwise, a motion? Yeah.
You make a motion. I did ask Chris to stay, and I pointed out one item on the staff report, the second part, which is number 2, the existing regional basin provides detention up to 10-year event per approved storm management plan, and indicating that requires detention of a 200-year event. The difference will need to be made up on site. That condition was reviewed early on by Verbecker, our civil engineer, was advised that the lot that they engineered just north of that for the Madison group did not have that requirement, and that this lot would be acceptable under the 10-year event. So that's one that truly needs to be reviewed.
Are you under the staff recommendations or the questions that staff had sent earlier?
It's part of the packet, and it's item.
I think it's
there it is. Item 2.
This is another Public Works requirement that they're asking for detention up to the 200-year event.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt. I was just trying to find that on the.
No, I appreciate that. It's something that was just recently published since we responded to the initial comments, and so I just learned of it yesterday when I downloaded the information. We would just request consideration on that one item. We're in agreement and the staff recommendations on all other items.
Yeah, do you want to speak to that?
I of course cannot speak directly to the requirements, the Dane County requirements, the MMSD requirements that the city must function on. I think that we can add a condition to the architectural design review that the applicant will work closely on a solution for detention at this point. I can't speak directly on what the codes are telling the engineers.
So is that kind of working with Public Works to ensure that all retention requirements, retention-based requirements are fulfilled? Okay. Yeah, because I know we have requirements that we have to pass on, but yeah, we want to make sure that those are consistent, and those might have changed as possible too. I don't know if they have or not. It's possible.
I mean, I guess my question is, given that it's a previously platted lot, is it subject to these Dane County requirements, or is this, so I understand if, Dane County is saying every new project needs this, then I don't think there's any way around it. But if it's already been kind of through that door, is it in a different position as it relates to Dane County? And if it is, I think we should be able to take advantage of that.
I agree. I just can't speak to that.
Yeah.
It's news to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can add a condition to something along that effect, so that if it can be under the previous, fine. If it has to do the new ones, sorry.
You're right.
It's out of our hands.
That's right.
So are we modifying the item 13 on the ADRs?
I think it would just add another one.
Well, item 13 was.
Well, you're right. I missed that too. I think we can just modify number 13 because I did catch that one. So we'll just say applicant shall work with Public Works to address appropriate detention.
Right. Any further questions or comments? Or a motion?
I'll move approval of rezone 2479-22 with the 4 conditions as noted.
I'll second.
Sent by Rich. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay. All right, that one's approved. And then the ADR, you want to do that one too?
Yeah, move approval of ADR with the 20 conditions with the 13th condition as modified as stated by Dan.
I'll
Second.
Oh.
I'll give it to Rich still. All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, nay. All right, that's also approved.
Thanks, guys.
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you. All right, moving along to K, ADR for Wendy's. Do we have Alyssa online, I believe, for that one? Go ahead, Alyssa, let us know what you're doing here.
Hello, I'm Alyssa Blazer. I'm from Blazer Construction. We're looking for approval for some exterior updates on the Wendy's on Fish Hatchery Road. Some of the proposed updates are dark bronze corrugated metal on the front of the building to replace that curved fascia, dark brown paint with silver paint accents on the sides of the buildings, dark brown paint on the parapet trim and exterior sconces, and new Wendy's signage to match their corporate branding.
All right. Then I think we can do a staff report, it sounds like.
We certainly can. So this is the existing Wendy's that you probably all know about on Fish Hatchery. The current zoning is business general. Plan Commission actually granted a conditional use for a restaurant at this location in 1993. Planning staff has not identified any concerns with the proposed architectural design review. We recommend approval with 11 conditions.
All right. Then I can open up to questions, comments from Planning Commission. So it's nice to see buildings get facelifts and people investing in them, making them look nicer. So that's always good to see.
I agree. I'll move approval of ADR for Wendy's with the 11 conditions as noted.
Second.
Seconded by Janelle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, nay. All right, that is also approved. All right, going on to L, public hearing and consideration of resolution R222, approval of the Farmland Preservation Plan map and adoption of Dane County Farmland Preservation Plan. Is that just you, Deanna?
That's just me.
All right, not just you, but
No, it's fine. Okay. So this has come, the Farmland Preservation Plan has come before Ag and Rural a couple of times. And so now we're bringing this before Plan Commission as a public hearing and a resolution. And then hopefully, if with Plan Commission support, we will take it to council next week. So the state of Wisconsin actually requires all counties, including Dane County, to have a certified farmland preservation plan. This is very important and actually needed if Fitchburg farmers are in the program for the tax credits, for the agricultural tax credits. We don't know exactly how many farmers in Fitchburg currently participate in that tax credit program. We are thinking 14 to 16 farmers might be in that program. Staff is still doing a little bit more research, but so what we're doing is we have taken our map from the original Farmland Preservation Plan that was passed back in 2014 and adopted by Dane County and adopted and recognized by the state. We've updated this map. We have been working closely with Ag and Rural and then also with Dane County Planning to make sure that Fitchburg's interests are heard in the Dane County Plan. So what we're bringing to you this evening is an updated Fitchburg Farmland Preservation Map, and I apologize, it looks just awful up on the screen, but if you have it up on your screens, there's two colors on this map. The areas in green are in the farmland preservation area, which means that there's very strict zoning requirements for those lands, very limited in terms of development. And it's meant to preserve those lands for agricultural use, and those farmers in those green areas would be eligible or may be eligible for the tax credit program. So we're bringing this map to you, and then also bringing Dane County's Farmland Preservation Plan to you in hopes that we get your support for approving the map and approving the Farmland Preservation Plan. And then council would also review and if support both the map and the Dane County Farmland Preservation Plan. Our map would be incorporated into the Dane County Farmland Preservation Plan, and Dane County is expecting to adopt this Farmland Preservation Plan by the end of the year, hopefully in November, for approval by the state. So I know that was like a whole lot, but I will try to answer any questions that I can.
all right. We'll first open the public hearing. I do not have anyone registered that wants to speak on this. So seeing no one from the public, I can close the public hearing, but open up to Planning Commission comments and thoughts. Did Ag and Rural Affairs discuss this?
Yeah, so this was discussed at the last two meetings. We looked at a draft map of the plan that staff had put together a month ago. and recommended some changes to that. And I think the only thing that we had this afternoon that we recommended an additional change to was there's about, I think it's about 80 acres of the Stoneman Farm that is in the,
It's right in here.
yeah, it's in the McGaugh neighborhood plan, but it is being actively farmed. And we didn't want to pull that out of ag preservation because they wouldn't have access to the tax credits if we did that, and we're not aware of plans for that to be developed. So we're recommending that goes back into ag preservation, and otherwise it's the map that we've got in front of us tonight.
Thank you, Ed.
So it sounds like if we were to approve, do we want to do it with the change of keeping the Stoneman property?
Yes.
That? Okay.
Yep.
When we get to that point, but don't want to close debate. Is there further questions or comments at all? All right. Seeing none. Do you want to do the?
Yeah, I, on behalf of Ag and Rural, move approval of R 200-22 with the inclusion of that 80 acres of the Stoneman Farm remaining in ag preservation.
Second.
All right, sent by Randy this time. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, nay? That one's approved. And what's the next one about here, Deanna? All three of them, really.
Yep, these are all three, hopefully the last time. So these are the Town of Madison zoning ordinances, the proposed ordinances. The Town of Madison is expected to be attached to the City of Fitchburg as of October 30th at 11:59 p.m. And as part of this process, one of the last things that we need to do is assign zoning districts to each one of those parcels. So these three ordinances, number 32, 33, and 34, assign zoning districts to these parcels. The first one is the Zimbrick area, and I guess I could have pulled that up, but the Zimbrick area is, I don't want to do that one either. Get this back. Is all, will be all commercial. It's pretty straightforward. So all staff is doing is trying to align the Town of Madison zoning as closely as possible to the City of Fitchburg zoning. And so the Zimbrick area, which is the first ordinance, would be all commercial. The second ordinance is the Genesis parcel, and we are proposing that would be business general, and this is the Genesis parcel. The third ordinance is all of Southdale. So Staff looked at, in order to assign these zoning districts, staff looked at what the current zoning was in both the City of Madison and also the Town of Madison. We made sure that we could be as consistent with the comprehensive plan and the Southdale neighborhood plan. And then we took a look at the current uses and the current buildings. We have tried to ensure that there will not be non-conformance to the extent possible. Staff believes that there certainly could be non-conformance of some of these parcels, just given the fact that it was developed a long time ago under a different zoning ordinance. For example, the mini storage along 14 in this general area would not be in conformance with the City of Fitchburg's zoning ordinance. So what that means is that that those uses and those structures may remain as long as the structural repairs or alterations do not exceed 50% of the total assessed value during its lifetime, and as long as the non-conforming use would not be discontinued for 12 months. So in general, non-conforming uses and structures can continue with some exceptions. For example, if the use stops for 12 months. I'm happy to go into further detail regarding that, but staff does recommend approval of all 3 ordinances.
All right.
Quick question on that.
First, can I open the public
Oh,
hearing on
sorry.
one of them, maybe? All right, I'll do that real quick. I'll open the public hearing on the Zimbrick area first. I don't have anyone from the public on that, so I can close that, but open up to questions and comments. Rich, you have a...
Yeah, I'm a little hazy on non-conforming parcels. If they've not been used for 12 months, they cannot ever be used in a non-conforming fashion. Do I have that right understood?
Well, okay, so there's 2 different types of non-conformance. There's non-conformance in the physical sense, like the setbacks aren't right, or the lot lines aren't right, or the frontage isn't right, and then there's non-conforming uses. So if a non-conforming structure isn't teared down, it can stay there for as long as it's there, for forever, as long as they do regular maintenance and it's not, as long as they don't tear it down and rebuild it. If they tear it down and rebuild it, then they have to conform to our zoning. Okay, so then non-conforming uses, for example, a restaurant in a house. We don't have any of those, but I'll just use that because it's kind of stark. If it's existing at the time of the zoning change, may continue unless that use stops for 12 months or more. Then they can't restart that non-conforming use.
Thanks.
All right, any other, Randy?
I'm afraid to ask the question, but what is the difference between what we're doing now versus a month ago on these ordinances?
Nothing.
Okay. I feel like it's a deja vu, that's
Yes,
all.
it is, actually.
All right.
And I thought it would be best at the initial start of this process to come forward to Plan Commission with 2 public hearings, thinking that there might be a lot of public input, a lot of discussion. Much to my surprise, there wasn't a lot of input. So I thought that we would have 1 round with Plan Commission to kind of get some public input. Staff would go and work, and take all those ideas, and then we would come back for another public hearing.
Okay.
That was the thinking. I was wrong. Yeah.
You did such a great job, there was no concern.
That's right, that's right.
I don't know.
Well, no, thank you for the clarification. I always appreciate transparency or providing that ample opportunity for the public to speak. So, thank you.
Anything additional on the Zimbrick area? Or a motion?
All right, I will. Motion to approve the consideration of ordinance 2022-0-32.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Janelle. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. All right, that's approved. And then N is the ordinance 2022-0-33 is the Genesis parcel that was in the city of Madison. I can open the public hearing for this one. I do not have anyone from the public register to speak that wants to speak on this. So I can close the public hearing on this one and open up to any other further questions or comments on this property. Not seeing any. Pretty small area. Looks like a pumpkin tooth. Randy, you want to do the...
Sure. Motion to approve consideration of ordinance 2022-0-33.
Second.
Seconded by Janelle. All in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, nay? All right, that's approved. And then the last one is ordinance 2022-0-34. That's the Southdale area. I can open the public hearing to this one if anyone has anything that they'd like to say. If you, yeah, come on up if you have. Can you come up to the microphone? Yeah, just as long as you come up to the microphone.
I'm in the northeast corner of what's presently Fitchburg, and across the street is going to be, if you look at the yellow section, which I believe I'm seeing as zoning district RL. And I'm trying to understand exactly what that means, because you'll see one fairly large parcel just across the street from me that's been on the market for probably 10 years already now, and I'm suspecting that a lot of this is not happened because the town of Madison really wasn't interested in the proposals that had been brought forward that I've been aware of. And so I'm wondering if that's an RL, does that mean it's residential? What does the RL mean?
I can take that one. So RL means low-density residential, so that would be like about a 60-foot by 100-foot single-family residential lot. And so staff has determined that based on what is the current zoning there and based on what the comprehensive plan states, that the most appropriate zoning for right now is a low-density residential. However, there are developers that have expressed interest to the city, to the planning department, about developing that parcel. And under the Southdale neighborhood plan, that is slated as a residential land use but it's called a small lot residential land use, if that kind of makes sense, or an urban residential land use. So staff believes that it might be possible to rezone that parcel to maybe planned development district or like residential low medium. But at this point, we thought it was best to just go ahead and zone it as low-density residential.
And so
I don't know if that answers your question.
So it would take some process to change that residential from L to, what would it be,
Maybe like,
LM?
Yeah. Yeah, it would come.
And that would involve a series of meetings and things like
It'd
that.
be a hearing, yeah.
Neighbors would have input into that.
Yep.
That's basically what I was hoping I would hear, because that is what was happening with the town of Madison, and the neighbors were pretty much vehemently opposed to the proposals that were being put forward at that time, with the support of things like the town's fire department and things like that, because the proposals were for what amounted to pretty high density. I think there were proposals of as many as 60 units, and that would just be really out of sync with the rest of the neighborhood. And so I'm just trying to get it, because many of the neighbors, having been in this location since '79, I am probably more aware of some of the history there than many of the other folks, and they continue to ask me if I've heard anything as to how this is all going, and so including some of the people that are in the town of Madison. So that was the focus. I wasn't able to be here for the earlier meeting, and some people that had gone to that felt that there wasn't a very good feedback that they got from the potential of being involved in any changes in the zoning. So I'm sensing that there would be an opportunity for the residents to be involved.
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And thank you for bringing that forward and,
Sure.
and coming forward. You know, now that you mention it, I am reminded of, I think a couple of years ago, someone telling me, oh yeah, this is going to come into Fitchburg and we want to put like a mixed-use building on it. And I wasn't exactly sure where it was, but I did drive by this a week ago or so, and I kind of jogged my memory because I think it's a big empty lot right now, isn't it?
It's quite substantial, yes.
Yeah. And I remember driving by that and going, well, that must be that lot they were talking about, but it's a bunch of single-family homes on decent-sized lots. It just seems incongruent with everything else in that neighborhood. So.
Yeah. So anyhow, it's been on the market for, like I say, as much as 10 years. Initially, the person that did live there donated it to the church. The church was going to put a structure, a church there, and I think it was too grandiose a financial thing, and so they've bailed on that. So it's remained empty basically for at least the last 15 years.
And I believe, Deanna, with low-density residential, is it up to 5 dwelling units per acre?
I think you're right.
Roughly. Okay, so I don't know how big that lot is. If it's if it's an acre, then they could put up to 5 residences on it, but you can't put 50 or something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So for this to be rezoned in the future would require a public hearing.
Oh, yes.
And a notice to what distance from the property?
300.
300 feet.
Okay.
So anyone 300 feet from the property would be notified, but there would be a public hearing.
Plus, we've also been hopefully still also notifying any neighborhood associations in the area as well, so they could tell more people, just because 300 feet's not that far.
Right.
That's something that we ran into, so we do also now notify neighborhood associations so that a broader area than just that does find out about it, hopefully.
Is there a neighborhood association for town of Madison there?
Not for the town of Madison. The city has one that's pretty active, and I'm not sure that there's really much in terms of Fitchburg in that area either. So
Okay.
It's kind of, as you can see, a pretty isolated area there between 14 and the city of Madison and the town of Madison. We're kind of out there on the edge.
You're right across from it, so.
Pardon me?
You're right across from the property, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're within 300, so you'll know.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, I will close the public hearing, I guess, and open up to further questions, comments from the Plan Commission. I think it's the lot just above the big, thick line. Do you want to circle that, Deanna?
Just curious.
Here.
You can see where she's pointing the cursor to.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, okay.
East of Rimrock, yeah. Okay.
All right, anything further? Or a motion?
Move approval of ordinance 2022-0-34.
Second.
Sent by Janelle. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that is approved. All right, a report from the departments.
I would just like to bring to your all's attention that Zach, your fellow Plan Commissioner, and myself have joined the Dane County Regional Housing Strategy. And so we are working with the next year to help a large team from across different nonprofits, the private sector, government officials on a housing strategy for the region. And if you're interested in any additional information, just let me know. But I wanted to bring to your attention that there is an invitation for a focus group that is coming up fairly soon, for a focus group on, let me just get that right, I think it's October 26th, but it's coming up October 26th and 27th for a focus group for low-income residents. So if you have anyone in your networks that might be interested in contributing to the study to create a regional strategy for affordable housing, let me know.
All right. All right. Zach, anything from you? You feeling better that Titans might actually win in Lambeau Field now?
3-3, baby.
All right. I don't have any other announcements. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Janelle.
Second.
Sent by Randy. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, nay. All right, we are adjourned.